Brought to you by the all-new Holden one-tonner, Crazy Johns, Repco and Telstra. The St George Illawarra Dragons versus the Newcastle Knights. 9 Sunday football on the wide world of sports.
The Knights and the Dragons continue to torture their many fans as we come into the second last week of the competition round. Neither of these teams assured of the final 8's berth. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us on a beautiful afternoon here at the OKI Jubilee Stadium. The 5th game back at this venue since St George Illawarra returned in early May, and none more important. The Dragons quite simply must win this afternoon to give themselves a chance of sneaking into the top 8 next weekend. Victory for Newcastle would see them assured of a finals position. No joy in the injury stakes for the home team. Without both Mark Gasnier and Lance Thompson this afternoon, here's how they look. At fullback, Ben Hornby. On the wings, Nathan Blacklock and Ben Cray. In the centres, Sean Timmins, he's captain of the side, alongside Matt Cooper. At 5'8", Matt Head comes in, jersey 18, alongside another youngster in Brett Furman. He's the halfback. Lock forward, Dean Young. Second rowers, Brent Kite. Luke Bailey drops back. And the front row, Ian Donnelly joins Chris Lightfall and Mark Riddell. And coming off the bench this afternoon, Ashton Sims and the experienced John Cross, Damien Bauer and Reece Simmons, their coach Nathan Brown. Newcastle, like the Dragons, 8-point losers last weekend. They went down to Canberra. This afternoon, welcome back 2 of their star backs to help their cause. One of those is the fullback Robbie O'Davis. The other is Tamana Tahu. He's on one wing, Anthony Quinn on the other flank. The centres this afternoon, Matt Gidley and Adam McDougall. At 5'8", Sean Rudder, the halfback Kurt Gidley. A sensational back row, Ben Kennedy is the lock forward and captain, Steve Simpson and Daniel Abraham. And up front, Josh Perry, Danny Badiris and Matt Parsons. Their interchange, Adam Woolnough and Matt Jobson, Andrew Price and Craig Hall, their coach, Michael Hagan.
So Ben Kennedy takes the Newcastle Knights out. A chance this afternoon to cement their position in the top 8, and of course they've brought quite a handy crowd down here with them. Doing the job without Andrew Johns these days, but just coming into this game, they've lost 4 of their last 5 away games and have won only 4 from 11 matches away from home this season. Adam McDougall back to his best try-scoring form, 7 tries in his last 4 games. He's wearing 5, but he's playing centres today. And Tahu plays his first game in 6 weeks. He's been out with a quadricep injury as the Dragons come out. It's their last match on either of their home grounds this afternoon. And this ground hasn't been kind to them either. OKI Jubilee Stadium, they've lost their last 3 games here. And Mark Riddell needs only 3 points today to reach 400 career points. He needs 1 more than that to go past Nathan Blacklock. So there's more than just the St George club hoping that Mark Riddell does that. Brett Furman, number 1 in the NRL for 40-20 kicks, 5 in fact for the season, and he was the man responsible really more than anything else for that disappointing effort last weekend against Melbourne. Stephen Clark's in charge of this game today, and Phil Cooley is the video referee. It's a beautiful day in Sydney, being played at one of my favourite grounds here at Jubilee, and it's Newcastle running from left to right. And the Dragons out there, what's that old adage? While there's life, there's hope. And let's hope that at the end of this day, they can be celebrating. Although Newcastle, if they lose, they can still make the top 8. That's pretty briefly the equation as Riddell brings the ball out, 25 metres out from his own line. The standings coming into the game. Newcastle in 8th position, St George Illawarra down in 10th. And again, we see a St George Illawarra side decimated by injury. Lance Thompson not in the game, Mark Gasnier not in the game. And of course they join Jason Riles and Trent Barrett. Robbie O'Davis returning to the Knights today. And he's tackled with the first touch of the ball for the Knights back on his own 20-metre line.
As you also pointed out, Ray, no Brett Furman last week against the Storm for the Dragons. And what a key player he is this afternoon. Features very highly in try assists. We saw how many 40-20s he's kicked. There's some of the injured brigade. Furman, a real plus for them this afternoon. There's the young man on screen now.
Kennedy then, with his first touch of the ball, and Badira starts a blindside play that McDougall has capitalised on 45 metres down the ground. It was a desperate tackle eventually by Hornby that brought him to a complete standstill. Now from Gidley across to Rudder as the Knights mount the first serious attack of the game. Mark Hughes, one of the injured Knights players, as we go to the 10-metre line, and here's Kurt Gidley rolling it in. It's a try, I think. Oh no! Blacklock may have saved it. Stephen Clark is going to the video referee.
Well, there's plenty of congratulations for Adam McDougall, and this would be a disaster for Nathan Blacklock, who of course dropped the football to allow the Melbourne Storm to score their first try last week. Fafita Moala was the recipient on that occasion. All the chasers are onside. Kick goes through. Blacklock is well positioned for it. Does McDougall get over the top before Blacklock is regathered? This will show.
Oh, gee, I think you'll find that here Nathan Blacklock may have got a little touch on it in time to save it.
Well, if it's deemed simultaneous, it will be a try, but I tend to agree that Blacklock has got there marginally in front of McDougall.
So as I pointed out earlier, Phil Cooley is the video referee. He's got the job of working out, is it McDougall, is it Blacklock? And I just think that Blacklock might have got his hand underneath McDougall.
Yeah, I think you can there. I think you can see the darker arm of Blacklock come in and actually secure the ball, wrap the ball up. There's McDougall's hand on top. Now Blacklock's gets between his hand and the ball, and I'm satisfied that Blacklock's hand touches the ball underneath that of McDougall's. He has more of a piece of it. He actually comes up with it, and if control means anything, then the Dragons have dodged a bullet. But it's reminiscent of the game these two teams met up at Energy Australia Stadium earlier this year. The Knights target Blacklock, the Dragons target McDougall, and everything went down that side of the field.
Well, he's awarded a try, so he's obviously gone with a simultaneous grounding of the ball and given the benefit to Adam McDougall. So McDougall.
And there you can see the break that led to it. It was some poor defence down the short side. Sean Timmins raced up and gave McDougall a saloon passage down the left touchline. And then Blacklock stays back deliberately for a kick. It comes from Gidley. Didn't get a particularly bad bounce. And as we pointed out, the referee, or the video referee, has claimed that it was a simultaneous touch, and that's why he's gone the green light.
I think they'll be glad they scored there, the Knights, because the kick wasn't necessary. They had Blacklock outnumbered heavily on the left-hand side of the field. The initial break came with a short side raid by Badiris, and that time they had plenty of numbers on the outside. The kick wasn't necessary, but they got the try anyway.
Daniel Abraham with 2 from 3 last weekend, and that's a lovely kick. Straight between the uprights. So Newcastle grab a 6-0 lead early against the St George Illawarra Dragons. Andrew Voss, sideline.
Yeah, bad sign too for the Dragons, Ray, because as you know, the Dragons' first half form in recent weeks has been terrible. As for conditions today, it's just superb for the last day of winter. And this breeze is a bit of a factor in the first half. It's more across the ground, so for our viewers watching, to get the full advantage, the kickers, they will be kicking towards the top of the screen, towards that eastern touchline.
So Newcastle with a converted try. It came as quite a surprise to many, but I've got no doubts that Phil Cooley has used the simultaneous grounding rule to give it to the Newcastle side, played by Simpson. And now it is Josh Perry who's tackled just outside 30.
And Ray, ever since Andrew Johns was out for the season with injury, the Newcastle side have really perfected these short side raids, using their strengths through Badiris, Kennedy, Abraham, going down the short side of the field, and the Dragons should have been awake to that early.
So there's Gidley finding the line just outside the 20 metres. Kurt Gidley in place of that man Andrew Johns, and he's getting more and more practice as the weeks go on. He's building confidence.
And he's the man that denied St George Illawarra victory last time these sides met. Sideline conversion up at Energy Australia Stadium.
Out.
It was a game the Dragons looked like they had won. They've got to come from behind to get this one. It's the match I'm talking about. 32-30.
That's one. Very lucky.
Great sideline
Steve
conversion
Simpson.
as Timmins out of dummy half finds Bailey.
2.
Bailey on his own 30-metre line. And now to Furman, turning it on the inside for Likeville, but Stephen Clark was playing an advantage. He claimed that
Haven't given you the mark.
Newcastle were inside the
Haven't given you the
10.
mark.
And they went for the quick restart, and the referee explaining that he hadn't given them the mark. And the penalty's awarded. The referee must give the team a mark before they can play on.
Yeah, I think that's more an excuse not to give teams quick taps, because Clark was standing on the mark and didn't move once he decided to give it.
Hold it, boys. Wait. Wait.
But I'm expecting something a little bit special from the Dragons today. I reckon they've been down for the importance of their clashes in the last couple of weeks. They just emotionally haven't come up. Now they're down 6-0 on the scoreboard. The season flashes before their eyes. Let's see what they've got.
Held.
Likeville playing it on the 20-metre line, centre of the ground, Newcastle's end of the park, and here's Cooper working his way across. Oh, that's a very good tackle by Kennedy on Hornby.
You're right.
Riddell out from dummy half, and away it goes to Head and then to Timmins, and that's another good tackle.
Here it is.
More of a conventional tackle from McDougall. Back for Furman. He cuts out one, finds Hornby. Hornby offloading to the number 19, that is
5.
Ian Donnelly, who's bound for Manly next year. They're close to the line. They're only a couple of metres away. Furman gets a kick on it, but it came off the boot of Kurt Gidley. He didn't play at the ball. Newcastle have come up with it.
Chris, go.
And it's a much faster moving Newcastle defence today. They're getting up very quickly, trying to cut down the ball playing time
There it
and the
is.
thinking time of these Dragons. And that's different to what they usually employ. So obviously they're aware of the fact that they want to put as much pressure early on this Dragons outfit as possible.
Front.
Parsons then, and the sound of the whistle gives a penalty against St George. Against the Dragons. He's ruled that the markers did not line up. And Kurt Gidley kicks for line off his own 40-metre line. He finds it
Touches if you're watching, you've got to get back.
on the St George Illawarra 40-metre line down the other end of the park. And Abrahams will play the ball just outside the 30.
You go.
Most valuable player voted by Gus Gould. You simply have to agree with that to win $1,000 if your name is the first one drawn.
Mark straight.
And that's the SMS number, 188-1099. 188-1099. And Kennedy is held with the ball. Could have got rid of it. Decided to take it to ground with him. 15 away from the line. Here's Badira starting something himself. Parsons is with it. And Likeville and Kite are with him. And Parsons appeals to the referee as if to say, I've submitted, what are you going to call tackled? Badeiras for Rudder off the hand of O'Davis, picked up by Cray, and the Dragons wing three-quarter is tackled inside the 30-metre line. Quick play the ball, Cooper goes away outside the 40, 45 out from his own line. Cooper, was he held, gets up, says to the referee, can I play on? And he does play on. Now he's 5 metres into Newcastle's area. Riddell, Furman. And again, he's got Newcastle for inside the 10.
No, wait. Yeah, wait. Ben, see the bloke out there? Touch judge? He's standing back 10 with me. You got to look for him, you look for me, and listen for the calls. You're up offside, you've got to get back.
Kennedy had his own run-ins up at Newcastle a fortnight ago, you might remember.
That's a ridiculous suggestion that the players should be looking at the linesman to get their 10 metres when the play the ball's over here. Why should they be looking out at the sideline? They've got to keep their eyes on the game.
That's one! Back, fellas. Wait!
15
Now.
metres out from the line. Can the Dragons level up? They certainly need to. It was a demoralising start for them. Likeville will play it. 10 out, centre ground. Out to Head, who's playing at 5'8", and he's tackled a couple of metres out from the line. This is Dean Young in 13, Furman in 7, Hornby in 1, tackled 12 metres out from the Newcastle line again. Kite, then for Furman off his right foot, goes back and then
dominance.
Gee, he runs into a real don't argue tackle from Stephen Simpson. This is their last tackle off the boot of the 18 head, taken well by Abraham. Abraham makes a passage. He's going well. They're running him down on the halfway line, and Abraham will be made to play the ball.
They've done very well on the last tackle. Oh, that's a shocking pass, although it's going to work their way. The St George Illawarra side inside the 10. It was an awful pass from Anthony Quinn from dummy half.
Yes, they all stopped short, Ben. They all stopped well short. Shot at goal, boys.
They're going to take the shot for goal, and the short kicking game on the last tackle close to the line hasn't worked for the Dragons as yet. As Phil Gould pointed out, getting up in the face of the kickers, making it difficult to thread it through. And Abraham was Johnny on the spot.
I'll tell you what I did just find out in that chase. Daniel Abraham was run down by Ian Donnelly. So it's a good chase by the big front rower.
It was a forwards foot race, actually. Abraham will make the break, and it'll be Riddell, Bailey and Donnelly. Now, you don't see four forwards run this far in a game of football. I think Cray had them all covered. He was looming up out wide under double wraps.
Did you ever win a forwards foot race at the local picnic?
I tried not to get involved in any forwards foot races.
I think that shows that Daniel Abraham has made the right decision. He used to be a fullback, now into the forwards.
Just going back to this linesman marking the 10 metres here, and the referee saying the linesman is calling you offside. The players can't be looking at the play the ball at the referee and then over their other shoulder to the linesman to find out where the 10 metres is.
No, you're absolutely right.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Daniel Abraham then from 35 out, and his kick is a beauty. Oh, gee, isn't he kicking well, Daniel? Taking the place of Andrew as the goal kicker. It's 8-0 in favour of Newcastle after 11 minutes now. Bring you back to OKI Jubilee Stadium. You can guess I'm having trouble getting used to that new name, having been here for many, many years, but this is my first visit to the new name of OKI Jubilee Stadium.
It's a beautiful view over there on the hill, isn't it? All those white jerseys with the big red V, and the local team usually doesn't let them down. It's a great sight.
Well, let's hope they don't let them down today, as Kennedy makes a surging run, totally in charge of the situation. 3 defence men, but they really struggle to stop him. Badiris, Peter Sterling said something in the papers today. There are players that now seemingly have taken over new dominance, more confidence, if you like. They're not overruled by the call from the familiar Andrew Johns. People like Badiris, Kurt Gidley, they're probably freer agents than ever they've been. As Kurt Gidley puts this kick up, and what a kick it was. It's come off the hands of the red and whites. It'll be a line drop out.
That was a great kick from Kurt Gidley. Plenty of height, the ball was swirling around. That's a big kick, 38 metres out, and it lands in the in-goal area. And Ben Hornby, normally very safe, just never in the right position to take that on the full. And unfortunately for his side, got a touch.
Just on that subject I was talking about, there was a kid called Andrew Johns once when they brought him into State of Origin early alongside some big names. I felt that he played inhibited football, mainly because of that reason. But I'm just watching people like Gidley and Badiris and company. They're doing things, they're trying things. They're not listening for that overruled call coming from the playmaker, from the great player. Parsons will play this in the middle of the ground, 15 out from the line. It's gone to Rudder. Rudder to Matt Gidley. Gidley stands. The ball comes off the Dragons. Back to Newcastle. Knock on. Clark has found a knock on.
Yeah, he's found a Newcastle knock on as well, most importantly. Lovely face ball there. Selling that Steve Simpson was going to get it, and it went to Matt Gidley running a good line. He tried to offload back to Rudder. The referee has ruled that he got a touch on it, the 5'8".
Well, this vision will show. There it is there. No, it was actually Furman who knocked the ball down. It didn't get to Rudder. This could have been play on.
Yeah, and you know something, Phil, as I was calling it, I was of the opinion it was play on.
Yeah. Still, it was a line ball call, and that's what referees do.
So we've got Ben Cray down injured as Sean Rudder bemused by the decision. The young winger back onto his feet.
Got some fears for the Dragons here. There are some bad signs defensively, and even on offence they look a little disorganised. And that's been the case for a couple of weeks. Going to need some good settling sets of 6 here just to get their confidence back, get themselves back in the game. It just all seems emotionally too much for them at the moment. They need something to go their way. A little bit of luck.
2 movement.
They'd like some class players back amongst them, wouldn't they? That'd be the first thing they'd be hoping for, but they can't get them back. And Dean Young is tackled 22 metres out from his own line. If it wasn't for penalties taking them down the other end, it could be even more scary than it already is. 8-0 in favour of Newcastle. Newcastle will play themselves into the top 8 with a victory. St George Illawarra just simply must win to keep a slender chance alive. As it comes across to fullback Hornby, and then a long pass out to Cooper, who had to stop before taking the ball. And then it's been dropped back by Luke Bailey, picked up by Craig. Craig goes over halfway. Tackle 5 is indicated. That's the turnover.
It might have been Ben Cray offside when he picked that football up as well. As it's turned out, Newcastle still get it in good field position as Quinn beats 1, picks up another 5.
That's 1. Hold here. Go.
10 metres into Dragons area, and here's the other winger, Tahu.
Marcus straight.
Tackled in the opposition 20. Statistics up there for you. As Kurt Gidley makes a half break, and they hang on desperately through Donnelly. And now here's Badeiras, and he passes to Tahu. He beats Kite. He reels away from another. And he will play the ball 8 metres out from the line. Badeiras goes away to Kurt Gidley. It's gone on to Ben Kennedy. Kennedy unloads the ball out the back for Daniel Abraham. And Abraham will play the ball. Close to that southeastern corner. Kennedy gets it away for Robbie O'Davis to knock on. Advantage goes to the Dragons.
That's 0. Yep.
They're under siege, the Dragons, but again they've forced a mistake from their opposition.
That's 1. Hold here, hold.
So Robbie O'Davis here,
Go.
crunched in a tackle, forces the ball loose. Head did well to get up.
Push. That's Steve, mate. Yeah, if they're dominant, yeah, absolutely.
Listening through the headphones to discussion between Matt Parsons and Stephen Clark about the dominant tackle. By gee, I tell you what, there's a few punters out there are asking questions about some of our rules in the game at the moment. It's one of them. What is a dominant tackle? Here is Cooper with a blistering run down the left side. A great fend. O'Davis to beat. Passes to Cray. And Cray goes in. The Dragons are alive still. Cooper with blistering speed.
And it came from a very good first touch from Ashton Sims, who's come off the bench and come up with some good second phase play, keeping the ball alive. Come wide now. Ashton Sims gets the football away. If he frees it there, you can see Tamana Tahu has headed in, and that leaves plenty of space for the speedster Matt Cooper. Ball is passed. Cooper, a big fend. He's got Gidley for speed, and he got the fend into the sternum. Got support from Cray on the inside. Robbie O'Davis, no chance. 2-on-1. Exactly what the home team needed.
Good player, this fellow, Cooper. Got plenty of size, plenty of strength, plenty of speed. I think he's a player that can represent New South Wales next season. And on that occasion, he was able to get the run on Gidley. Gidley probably did the wrong thing by attempting the tackle. He was never really in a position to get him. Had he stayed with him, he could have prevented this pass. Give O'Davis a shot on Cooper. But by going to ground, he left the 2-on-1, and Cray loomed up quickly on the inside. He's pretty quick, this kid. We saw that in a previous defensive play, and he was able to loom up on the inside and score. Gidley was probably better to let Cooper go and prevent the pass back in field. Give O'Davis a shot at saving the try.
So Riddell will kick this goal towards the big screen down at the northern end of the ground. And it'll be 8 points to 6 at the completion of this. The youngsters watch on. And Riddell raises the flags, much to their delight and to the delight of the collective gathering here at OKI Jubilee Stadium. It is 8-6, Newcastle leading. Daniel Abraham starts us again. Kicking down towards the southeastern corner. Beautifully grassed stadium here.
Hold, boys, go.
As the Dragons get it now just outside their 30-metre line.
Interesting to see what Brett Furman does here. That's the second time in a couple of minutes they nearly hurt them down this left-hand side. They should have nearly made a break in the previous set. And Furman eyeing over on this left-hand side of the field, looking to his speeds to Cooper. Might see some more play down this grandstand side before the half-time break.
Furman then punching the ball deep, and it's going to find the line. Good kick. Very good kick. About 5 metres on the Newcastle side of halfway. He's plugged it over the line about 5 metres out.
Yeah, what you're looking for from your kick is a result, and that can be anything. It can be a try, it can be a mistake from the opposition. On that occasion, it was good metres. Picked up 45. Scrum will now be set. They're at the right end of the field where they want to be playing the football. It's also turned the opposition around.
Matthew Gidley.
Movement! You're right, boys. You're right.
Now Kennedy.
Tackle two!
Just outside the 20-metre line. That's his 44th metre on 4 hit-ups.
Yeah, he's primed for a big one, Ben Kennedy. You can just see in his body language out there. He wants to be involved.
Matt Parsons going to his first break of the afternoon.
Yeah, hold, boys. Now.
And it's Adam Woolnow, or Woolnow, who's on now for Newcastle, playing the ball. Kurt Gidley now to punch it down the ground. And the men at the back, Blacklock in particular, tries to bring it out. And he's tackled just inside the 20-metre line. Here's the try scorer, Cray. Blacklock from the right wing, operating here on the left side of the ground. Unable to beat the markers. The marker that day at that particular time was Gidley. Now for Bailey.
Here it is, boys. Hold here.
He's certainly got plenty of miles in those legs through the year, hasn't he, Bailey? Charged down on the Furman kick and then picked up by the number 2. It's play on, Newcastle's ball.
He went for 2 months there, Nathan Blacklock. It would have been another 6 tackles to his team. But he tried for one of those grand final flyers from a few years ago. Tried to pick it up on the run. Came up with a bad error at that time.
Tahoe. Just inside 30. Woolnow. Third tackle down. On the 20-metre line, Dragons end of the park. Runners with the ball, and then fends on Furman, gets the ball back. Simpson immediately passes to Tahu, and Tahu operating on the right side of the Newcastle attack. Will play it 10 metres out from the line, playing it back for Badiris. A long pass out for Kurt Gidley. O'Davis comes into the back line, shows it to Kennedy, and then shrugs off one tackle before being put away by the next. Adam McDougall then for Kurt Gidley, and he kicks. And he's gone looking for Tahu. Tahu's got the jump, but young Prey was there first. Standing start, that's a very good effort. He's got a penalty too.
Yeah, he was definitely tackled in the field of play and dragged back in. He really does look a likely customer, this young Ben Craig. Just one mistake last week when he gifted Cameron Smith a try. That's a superb catch over his head.
Second movement in the in goal.
Again asking the questions of the referee.
I think Peter from memory had a take like that last week against the Melbourne Storm. He doesn't go up to catch it on his chest. He's prepared to get his hands in the air above the pack to take the catch.
That's one! Here it is. Go.
Hornby
Tackle two!
up at first receiver on that occasion. Now Riddell makes a run out to the 30-metre line. He gets rid of Kennedy, gets rid of another, then Hornby. Ball goes to ground, and Newcastle come up with it.
That's one.
Cooper was beaten to the ball by Gidley. Tahu. And spinning away from Sims and taking it back inside the 20-metre line.
Here it is.
Mike Vole, the main tackler.
Let's just have a look at this attacking raid by Newcastle. To me, they seem very good until they get inside their opposition 15. The communication just seems to lack a little bit.
10 away from the line now for Kurt Gidley to go to Josh Perry. And Perry, not held, starts to crawl along the grass. Plays it 5 metres out from the line. Kurt Gidley goes to the line, puts on the step, he's in. Kurt Gidley, he did something similar about a fortnight ago at Newcastle with a solo try. He passes, and then when the opportunity comes, he puts on a little sprint and a step.
Well, we gave Ashton Simps a rap for his involvement in the Dragons' first try. On that occasion, he threw possession away. And I've got to say the support players here, as we freeze it, they really helped Gidley. You've got one there, you've got another one there. He could be picking up this man. Instead, as play continues, the sidestep. He just had the opposition looking at a couple of players. They were half concerned with him with the football, but also what was happening on the outside. And it's a lovely step inside Mark Riddell and beats Lightvolt to go in under the posts.
And that's the difference. You're talking about a little bit of uncertainty close to the try line for the Newcastle attack. When Andrew Johns plays, everyone spears into holes at speed. It's what makes them so dangerous. And Johns can pick them up or go himself. Earlier in this half, the Newcastle players weren't in motion. That was the first time that the runners have actually attacked the line. And as you say, it was a perfect foil for Gidley to dummy and go himself.
And so Abraham, who's been online all day long, continues that. 25 minutes gone, 14-6. Newcastle over St George Illawarra. Andrew Voss on the sideline.
Ray, just while that goal was being attempted by Daniel Abraham, Matt Gidley came up to the referee Stephen Clark. Ben Kennedy had questioned him earlier about that take by Ben Cray, the tackle to the in goal. Now, it was clarified at the start of the year. I mean, the referee doesn't have to explain his ruling, and I thought that one was pretty clear cut. I just hope that the Newcastle Knights can concentrate on their footy and not get carried away with some of that stuff with the referee like they did a fortnight ago.
There's Riddell. And it's O'Davis that's sending Woolnow back towards the 20-metre line. You were talking about players in motion for that Kurt Gidley try. Woolnow also was in amongst those players. He gave him an inside decoy. As Perry makes a very long run. There are danger signs there, very much so. 14 points to 6 the score. And Newcastle have been over for a couple of tries. This kick has gone down to Hornby. 12 metres out from his own line. And he's tackled down there by Kurt Gidley.
There's an old saying in football, you have to meet them to beat them. And if the Dragons sit back and allow the Knights to charge at them like that with the forwards and play the ball quickly, they'll carve you up. They've got to get off their line in defence. Get up and put some pressure on the ball carrier.
There it is, boys. That's it. Good.
Played by John Cross. And it's now with Luke Bailey. Bailey tackle on his 40-metre line. Black armbands being worn by both clubs today. In relation to the Dragons, it's in memory of John Cleary, a co-patron of the Dragons, and a man that had a lot to do with the reformation of Wynn Stadium from Wollongong Showground, and also a lot to do with the construction, if you like, the origins of the Steelers Leagues Club. He was a very influential man, leading businessman in Wollongong, and a great supporter of the Steelers and more recently the Dragons. Now with Newcastle, their black armbands are in memory of Max Lees, the famous horse trainer, who was a wonderful man and a great supporter of the Knights. And he, of course, was buried on Friday. So if you're wondering about armbands on both sides, that's what they're there for today. Simpson played that ball. Adam McDougall runs the ball, gets it to within about 5 metres of halfway. 14-6 the scoreboard. Max and John watching down on this game. Max at the moment the happier of the two. Woolnow will play it on halfway. And it's with Simpson, and then for O'Davis. And Robbie will be made to play the ball.
That's better defence by the Dragons. They've come up quickly, shut down the ball carrier, slowed the play the ball. Now Badiris gets a wobbly kick out of dummy half. They catch it on the full, they're on their way.
And on their way with Cray.
That's one.
And beyond the 20-metre line, that's the kick from Badiris. And Hornby it is who runs an angle away from the 20. They're seeing plenty of this territory though. Luke Bailey now. Made to play the ball just inside the 40-metre line, his own end of the park. They've qualified for the finals 3 times in their 4 seasons in the NRL. As the merged entity, we'll take a break and be back with you in just a moment.
Have become a part of the Legends Walk of History at OKI Jubilee. Borders will close.
Outside leg up, Adam.
And back
I'll call you out, John Cross.
at the St George Illawarra Newcastle game. Newcastle leading by 14-6. As Newcastle get this opportunity to go on the attack. It was snuffed out there on that tackle. Hornby on rudder. Now Simpson.
Tackle 2.
Just outside the 30-metre line, Daniel Abraham has made 64 metres off 6 hit-ups. And his goal kicking has been impeccable today. 25 metres out from the line now. Badeiros goes across the ground, searching for an opening, searching for a runner. Kurt Gidley was there, but he had other things on his mind, probably to do with the play that's about to unfold now. Play by Matt Gidley. Badeiros goes to Kurt. Kurt with the ball, puts the grubber kick in. And, oh, gee, that was close. There was a juggle by Hornby, but he raked it in.
Yeah, this is one he probably should have let go. Blacklock's got it easily covered there. Hornby's gone for the one-hand snatch. Kabang with McDougall, and how he held on to it, I don't know. Blacklock had it covered. Hornby comes from nowhere. Click up, and what's the hit? Whoosh! Oh, how is that feel in the breadbasket?
Stay on.
So repair work has been done, and Ben Hornby is back in the line as the Dragons are required to make the line drop out, and McDougall is the recipient. Woolno just outside the 10-metre line on the southern end of the ground. Badeiros now for Abraham, and Abraham running straight at Luke Bailey. And the defence winning that battle. 17 is on for the Dragons. Damien Bauer. Here's Newcastle with rudder, turns it into open space. Badeiros was alert though. Abraham's is tackled.
Movement!
Badeiros then, off to his left, he throws the dummy to Woolno, and then he's tackled by Young. 10 out from the line, a little bit of sloppiness there. Now McDougall tries to put some strength into it. Gets the ball away to Anthony Quinn. That's the last tackle, that's the turnover.
Someone in the Newcastle side is going to get their pay, Doc. They didn't turn up for work. It was a beautiful little interchange of passing by Badeiros and Rudder over on the right-hand side of the field, and when Rudder turned the ball back inside, someone went missing. They were there on Thursday night at training, but they weren't there today.
Well, how the referee allowed that to play on. Adam McDougall lost the football, was tackled, then flicked it up between his legs for Anthony Quinn. The Dragons again work it out in the danger area. It's light goal on the 30-metre line. Even this far out, you've got a feeling that the next try scored is going to be a pivotal one in this game.
Here's Timmins. Back on his own 30-metre line. Hornby a dummy half, and Furman getting his kick away. Tahu coming in to make the catch on it, but it beat him, and it's given the runners, it's given this defence line of St George Illawarra's a good chance to come down the ground, dominate the tackle, and the ball is played by Tahu on the 30-metre line. Matt Gidley, he gains about 7 or 8 further metres before O'Davis goes for a dummy half run.
They've just got to hang in there for a while, the Dragons. Traditionally, the Newcastle team are a great first half side. They've probably played their best period so far. And the Dragons still only 8 behind on the scoreboard now in error.
14.
They've just got to hang in there for a little while, because this Newcastle onslaught won't last forever.
In there, boys. On the 10.
So the scrum will be fed
St George feed loose.
by the number 7, Brett Furman, for the Dragons. And there's the league ladder as we sit here this afternoon. Those in white, of course, have already played this weekend. And Cooper is about to play the ball for the Dragons. Cray in number 5 got the only try for the Dragons. And it was he and Cooper that largely were responsible for all of that. Here's Sims, big lump of a lad in jumper number 14. And that is Bauer in 17. Now it is Young across to Furman, then to Cooper. He goes for the speed. Cray is with him, and Cray is pulled down a couple of metres out from the line on 5. Hornby, Furman, and got the ball away, but it's been taken by Payne, or Price, I should say, Andrew Price from Newcastle.
He had 100 things going through his head then, Brett Furman. It was the 5th tackle. They were close to the line. He had players out wide, players around him. As McDougall finds space down the left-hand side, he came up with a poor option to run it on 5.
Dummy half is Quinn, and they take it beyond the 30-metre line. Just repeating that scoreboard. 14-6, made up of a couple of tries and 3 goals for Newcastle. 1-1 for St George Illawarra. Long ball out to McDougall. McDougall turning it into Quinn. And Quinn then tries to find an opening that'll take him between Leichvoll and Young. 40-metre line. And again they go for a short side play, and Kurt Gidley rolls it down the ground for Hornby to take the ball 10 metres out from his own line.
That's a big plus for Newcastle, the kick chase game of Kurt Gidley. A couple of occasions now as Ben Cray goes through, looks for support, straight into O'Davis.
And he's played the ball badly.
You kicked it forward.
He played the ball forward unintentionally, but you can't do that in the modern game.
It's
bad luck for the kid.
All supporters can take advantage of Pizza Hut's special offer by presenting your match ticket.
Newcastle will come up with another shot.
I thought that would almost be a penalty, handling in the ruck area. Once you've kicked it forward, you're allowed to pick the ball up.
Technically it was, Peter. Technically you're 100% right.
For the progress score at Campbelltown, Cowboys 8, leading the Tigers.
Oh, yeah, you're right now. Out!
McDougall over on the left of the ground. He's proving very, very hard for them to contain out there. Now it's with O'Davis.
Axton Sims! Get back! It's 2!
Is it any wonder they're hitting McDougall's side of the ground quite often today? Here's a penalty going to Newcastle.
Too slow, mate.
It's against Leichvoll for failing to get away from the tackle player. Now Parsons. And the try line is that line that you can see just in front of him. Now Badeiras for Kurt Gidley. Sean Rudder. Simpson's pass was forward. And they have let them off the hook, I fancy, because Newcastle looked to me as though they were brewing up to another try.
Yeah, forward and much too hard there from Simpson, and this is what Newcastle have to overcome. This end of the field, how they're going to maintain pressure, what plays are going to come up. They don't want to get too intricate, too detailed.
Call you out, Ben. Out!
On that occasion, the timing was just wrong.
Dominant 1!
Kennedy
Hold it, boys. Hold.
and
Hold. Go.
Abraham tackling Timmins. Now Kite.
Tackle 2! Move back!
Just inside the 30-metre line. As Leichvoll rolls it 35 metres out from the line. 44 metres for Luke Bailey. 14 tackles, 7 hit-ups, and Chris Leichvoll is not well. I was talking about Bailey earlier. Gee, he's had a magnificent year. He's one of the very few, though, St George Illawarra stars that is still standing.
It's hard to work out what happened to Chris Leichvoll. There are a lot of bodies involved, but
Steve Simpson,
they're really seeming to come in around the ribs area, but he's up now. Picks up a metre by walking forward. And they go the right side through head. On to Young.
That's 4! Here it is. Hold. Yep.
Bauer is the dummy half now. And Sims takes it over the halfway line. He's ridden into the ground by Josh Perry. Bauer again. Not a good pass out to Furman. Furman away to Hornby. He kicks, gets a deflection off the Newcastle feet. They go back to clean it up through Furman. And it's 6 more tackles, says referee Stephen Clark. And Furman plays the ball under the tackle of Gidley. Cross goes away towards halfway and takes it 20 metres in from touch here on the grandstand side of Jubilee. And now he's got Newcastle again for being inside the 10. Now he's improved the mark.
Hang on. Come out here.
We'll call McDougall out here.
No, Ben. Let's just all come now. Well, listen. No, you did not.
I did, sir.
No, you did not. You swear at me like that again, all right? You'll go, all right? All right? You get the benefit of the doubt. Next time, no benefit. See you later, all right?
Well, I don't know what he's supposed to have said, but I did hear him say, Adam McDougall, I swear to God, I didn't say that, sir.
Well, Adam was claiming that, yes, I did swear, but it wasn't at you, sir.
I can't understand this. They've had no ball at this end of the field. They've got the Knights tired just before the break at half-time.
Yeah, I said earlier I thought that the next try would play a major role, and if the Dragons could have gone in 2 behind at the break, that's a great result.
Well, it's gone dead. That's the only good thing I can say about it. Nathan Brown, the coach, 14-6, Newcastle still the score.
And conversely, if Newcastle get the next try, all of a sudden it's a big lead and one difficult for the opposition to run down. So that was a great opportunity for the Dragons to land a blow.
Yeah, well, it's loser leaves the country today for the Dragons. They're not going to win this game on penalty goals. They've got to come out and score some tries. They've got to put the Newcastle defence back on its heels. You can't do that putting the ball on the mound and kicking for goal.
Now this is going to be a penalty for a steal. Two-man tackle from Newcastle on Ashton Sims.
And under 2 minutes to go to the break. Big plays coming up for both teams here.
Kite.
That's one!
Bauer. Furman. Sims.
Two!
And they're 15 metres out from the line. Can they score before half-time? Bauer.
Three! Line. Adam McDougall!
Hornby. This is head. Now Young. Taken down by Matt Gidley and Sean Rudder. Blacklock. To the right they go, through to head, and head away to Furman. Oh, Kennedy. Kennedy grabbed him like a big gorilla and just squeezed the ball off him.
Yeah, there's no doubt today that the Newcastle Knights have decided they're going to target the two young halves from the Dragons. Their fast-moving defence has been as much a feature as their attack. Look at Kennedy pick him out, bang. Every time you get it, son, I'm going to be right in your face. Think
now
about
Matt Gidley runs across, links up with McDougall. McDougall's tackled by Blacklock, but Newcastle, they're not finished as yet. They turn it back on the inside. McDougall gets it away. Ball deflected, and Sims goes away for the Dragons. He's tackled 15 from the halfway. Cross. Furman. Timmins. Dummies to Cooper. Runs towards Cray.
He handled that very well, Tamana Tahu. It was 3-on-1, so he stopped going up and started to slide. Waiting for the defence to come and help. They keep it alive. Furman. Chance on the far side. Good strong tackle again from McDougall.
Penalty goes to the Dragons. Well, surely they won't take the kick again.
That's half time.
What's on the time? What's on the time, Pete?
Well, they've taken the last one, so why would the mentality be any different here?
Well, the difference is we've got no time on the clock. They kick it out, they've only got one play. I guess now they can sort of reduce the deficit to 8.
This is the point Peter was making about Tamana. See him backing off. He's had 2 and 3 on 1. He's just taken himself out of it, given himself a chance to let them unfold their play. So Furman will shoot from 21 metres in and 36 metres out. The red and white army on the hill over to the other side. They're praying for this one. This one looks better. It is there. The flags are up. So the halftime scoreboard, 14 points to 8 now. Newcastle Knights over to St George Illawarra Dragons as we go to a break and back for the second half in just a moment.
The Newcastle Knights lead the St George Illawarra Dragons here at OKI Jubilee, 14 points to 8, 2 tries to 1. McDougall and Gidley. Kurt Gidley scoring for the visitors. Ben Cray, the sole try scorer for the home side. Now, the strained relationship between Newcastle skipper Ben Kennedy and referee Steve Clark continued after the half-time whistle sounded. This verbal interplay took place as they left the field.
If you're counting penalties, Ben, you should be worrying about doing other things, I would suggest. Mate, hey, listen, I'm telling you, if you want to keep going, you know where you'll go. I'm telling you, you want to keep going, you'll know where you go. Don't try me.
Kennedy is the captain, but he'll need to get into a working relationship with Stephen Clark in this second 40.
And the Dragons from left to right. 40 minutes of football left. Maybe 40 minutes of their season really left. They just have to win. And then, of course, still rely on certain other results to go their way. but they can't really address that. What they can address is a 6-point deficit that they carry into the second half.
That's 4. Here it is. Hold here.
Kennedy, he's hurt. That's not a sight that Newcastle wants to see at any time. Not considering the situation they're currently in. Dean Young's got him across the left cheek with a left forearm.
I guess it's one of these ones that the video referee will now consider and confer with the referee in the middle, Stephen Clark, as to whether or not there is going to be a penalty. And as we can see it now, number 13, Dean Young, has been pointed to by the referee. You can see Clark taking his instructions. Listen here.
It was high. It was high. He's collected him high as he's in the tackle. So we're going to have a penalty. We're going to have a penalty here, all right, on Dean Young for a high tackle on Ben Kennedy.
Gee, this is a dangerous area. This, if we didn't stop play there, it was play on.
Well, you don't want to question Ben Kennedy's intentions there, but had he got up and played on, no one would have seen that. So if he stays down, the video referee interferes with the game.
Yeah, no, we're not putting any question mark over Ben Kennedy. It just, it's a turning point in the game.
Kennedy doesn't seem too affected now as he plays a dominant role in what just happened on the 30-metre line. Dragons end of the park, and Badiris uses Parsons. And Parsons eventually succumbs to the tackle, but he's inside the 20-metre line, and as you can see, it's in the centre of the park. He'll score, Badiris. They've let him go. Well, they had the rabbit in the trap, and they've let him out.
Well, that's unbelievable. It's reward for perseverance, but it's disgraceful defence. I think Ashton Sims is probably the main culprit. And we go back. Ben Kennedy is undoubtedly taken high, stays down. Dean Young gets penalised, so instead of it being second or third tackle, they pick up metres from the penalty kick, another set of 6, and from that, Badiris, he's swung by Ashton Sims. He's actually thrown towards the try line.
Well, I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago, and I've complained about it all year. It's the video referee interfering where he's not needed. The goal line defence here hasn't helped from the Dragons, but I go back to that penalty on the Kennedy hit. Young's hit was not deliberate. It was unlucky. It was an accident. And if Kennedy gets up and plays on, there's no penalty.
Badiris scores and Abrahams converts. So the job for the Dragons becomes now very, very difficult. Andrew Voss is back from the sheds at half-time. There was a bit of volatility down there in the tunnel, obviously.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Ray, I said it in the first half. I mean, some of the Newcastle players are running a fine line, and it's not just the man on screen, Ben Kennedy. There's been a fair bit of verbal, which is sort of indirectly going the way of the referee, and he's sort of choosing to ignore it, Stephen Clark, at the moment. So I reckon Newcastle, they really need to rein that in, be very careful, or they will find themselves one man down. Just on the coach's instructions, it's going to make it very hard for the Dragons to carry out what Nathan Brown wanted his side to do, and that was to build up pressure. It's a lot tougher when you're 12 points down. He really didn't think they took all of their chances in the first half. That is something they will need to do in the second 40. And Michael Hagan just spoke about attention to detail. He was concerned at some of the penalties conceded. He just thought all the little things, all the 1%ers, if they do them right, that will get them victory.
It's Josh Perry at the back end of this set of 6, and Kennedy unloading. Badiris catching, passing, one motion. Gidley across to Simpson, ball to ground, and he's called it a tackle.
Not played.
And he didn't deem the St George Illawarra player played at the ball. Parsons now, then Badiris, and now Rudder, and that pass inviting an intercept. It's gone to McDougall. And McDougall's able to get away from 1 or 2 before going to ground about 7 metres on his own side of the halfway. Badiris putting his kick way down the ground, and Hornby is the man that's returning it.
It's been very quiet for the Dragons today. Nathan Blacklock, we've been watching him. He's been filtering in behind the rucks in his usual role, but there's no one really creating anything for him. He's not a player that does it for himself. He gets others to punch holes through the line, dangle the arm out, offload a ball, kick for him. But he just hasn't been there today. Hasn't seen the ball at all.
35 out from their own line. Here's a run made by the dummy half Bauer. It's a very good run too. It's taken him down to the Newcastle 40-metre line, and problems in back play for Parsons. Continuing problems for him as Bauer again features up the middle.
Here it is, boys. Wait here, wait.
Now Furman puts this kick across, and it's taken by Tahu, fending away from Bailey. Bailey comes again and makes a tackle on Tahu with the help of Hornby. Now O'Davis goes across to Matt Gidley on the short side.
And Matt Parsons, as you can see, left the screen there, just working his way back into the attacking line for his team. He's having a wretched season with injury.
Mark straight.
They'd love him to be fit over the next 6 weeks if they do contest the finals.
Quinn.
That's 4, Johnny Cross.
Craig Hall and Matthew Jobson have seen no time
5.
off the Newcastle bench.
All right.
This is last tackle. Josh Perry's just charged the football forward. Again, they're the kind of plays that they have to contend with without a man who dominates.
There it is, boys.
Really up to Gidley or Rudder to know that it's the last and make sure that everybody does.
That's now 1.
Now Bailey.
Movement, Matt. Hold the 10. Go.
Just into enemy territory. Head is the 18, playing at 5/8 today. This is Kite.
Here it is.
40-metre line, Newcastle's end of the ground. And there's absolutely no doubt that the Dragons have to be the next team to score. Blacklock, that was all back in the field of play. There seemed to be a question mark. I didn't think so. Timmins got it away cleanly. Now they've lost the ball. And Clark says play on Newcastle's ball. Matt Gidley giving it away for Tahu.
It's 0.
15 metres from halfway. And Simpson plays it quickly. Badeiras, a dummy half run. No markers at all. Badeiras heads over towards the fullback, Robbie O'Davis, who loomed up on the short side. They're 38 metres out from the Dragons' line now. Parsons takes it inside that point. 20 points to 8 the score in favour of Newcastle. They've added 6 points in the second half. Now Rudder, away to Kurt Gidley, then to Ben Kennedy. Kennedy surging up the middle of the park, just outside the 20-metre line, plays the ball back for Badeiras, then to Kurt Gidley, throws a dummy, holds it back, gives it to Abrahams, and then it's picked up by St George's 5/8 Matthew Head. And he plays the ball quickly back inside the 10.
They're getting better, the Newcastle Knights. I know their record without Andrew Johns isn't good. That's because he's there all the time, and if he does miss, he whistles 1 or 2 here or there. Now these players have had a few weeks to play together. There are little other combinations starting to develop, and Abraham and Gidley is one of them. Down this left-hand side of the field, they've been very dangerous all day.
Strong work there from Tamana Tahu coming in to defuse a dangerous situation, and Matt Cooper is still a little bit dusty from the tackle. Furman, second man to Young. Defence moving up quickly once again.
That's 5.
That's the last tackle. There's Cooper still down receiving attention as Furman shapes to kick.
And coming up out of the deep to make the mark was O'Davis. He was at full speed. That pass is okay. It's gone over to Tahu. Tahu is able to beat one. He's left the halfway behind him. Takes it to the 40-metre line. And it's O'Davis, a dummy half.
What about that pass from O'Davis? That was like throwing darts. It was a beautiful pass.
Matthew Head.
Kennedy again. Inside the 30-metre line. He's almost made 20 before Leichvoll and Young put him on his back, and then it's Kurt Gidley puts the fend up in the face of Bauer. He's pulled down eventually, and then played back to Badeiras. Badeiras got a checkered passage, quick passing. Here's Gidley and Tahu, and they've done it again. The most famous combination of outside three-quarters in the modern game have done it again. Gidley and Tahu, 24-8 to score.
They've done it again. They go the short side, and as we freeze it there, how often, as this man gets the football, the 2 defenders come at him. Play continues. He's got the football. Here they come. Furman had the inside man covered, but the winger, the inexperienced Ben Cray, was still lured in to try and stop Gidley passing the football.
Yeah, they'd have spoken about this. You can tell wingers all you like. You can drill it as much as you want. But under pressure, you've still got to say to the kid, stay out, stay out, stay out, don't come in. Whatever you do, don't come in. Then at the last second, he comes in. And until he goes home and thinks about it tonight, but he puts his head on the pillow, that's the best teaching lesson of all time, to actually have it happen to you. And then the next time you're in that position, that's what experience is all about.
It might help him a little bit to know, when he does put his head on the pillow, that combination have done it to wingers with a lot more experience than Ben Creagh too.
Absolutely. And Tamana Tahu's incredible try-scoring record continues. And Abraham, who's hit the ball beautifully this afternoon, would fancy his chances despite that tough assignment.
You can have evens. From sideline, oh, look at this, you should have taken it. No, it's gone away. Oh, you're very shrewd. 24-8 stays the score. 51 minutes gone at Jubilee.
1 minute to go at Aussie Stadium.
So welcome back to Mark Riddell's kickoff, and it's down to the southern end of the ground where Captain Kennedy it is with the ball. Gus's most valuable player competition, Nutrigrain. Thank you for your $1,000. And we'll give it to somebody that matches up with Gus on SMS number 1881099. You've got to match up with Gus's MVP, 1881099. Here's Perry now to the halfway line. It's becoming very bleak now. The Dragons are in a forlorn situation. Here's Simpson, who is every week running back into some of his old form. Here they come again. Gidley tried to put a kick in, but it's been thwarted. Touch judge has got his flag up.
This will be interesting to see which way the scrum feed goes. It's gone to the Dragons.
Full time at Aussie Stadium. Warriors 26 defeating the Roosters
24-8. That's the other variation of their plays, or another of the variations would be more correct. Matt Gidley saying, well, who's it off? And Clark said that he didn't play at it, so it's his feed.
And Andrew Voss, you get the feeling the crowd, they would love to be part of this game, waiting to get into it, but it's just not happening for them.
Absolutely right out of the game at the moment. In fact, there was a bigger cheer when they hearing progress scores coming through from the other games than for the Dragons right at the moment, which is most disappointing for the team.
John Cross. Now Head. Furman. And Furman well contained by Badiris. They have really put a target on a couple of these younger inside backs today. Phil Gould made the comment earlier. Very well too, particularly when Ben Kennedy tackled, I think it was Brett Furman. But these experienced Newcastle players, they're really rattling them up. Young Head knows he's been in a game. Daniel Abraham, there's his record. Here's Kennedy.
I think that's a good sign for the Knights because their defence has leaked points this year. They've really been suspect away from home. They're averaging more than 30 points against them when they're on the road. And once Andrew Johns went, they had to realise they didn't have as many points in them, and they were going to have to shore up that part of their game to be competitive. They've done that. Some little combinations are starting to emerge. And whilst it's not the football team it was with Andrew Johns at halfback, it's another football team which is pretty good and going to make its presence felt in the finals.
Hornby.
And Matthew Jobson out there for the Knights in 15. As we see Reece Simmons in 24 come on for the Dragons.
Creagh.
Hold here.
Simmons.
Here it is.
Yeah, just watching Newcastle without Andrew Johns over the last couple of weeks, I got a feeling that some of these blokes want to back themselves.
10. Hold here.
I know they're not allowed to, but they give me the impression that, hang on a moment, let's use this as a lever. Let's use this as a motivation. What about we try and show everybody we can do it without Andrew Johns? And it would seem that Team 1 or Team 2 is going to have a pretty hard job on their hands in that first weekend.
There isn't a coach in the world that wouldn't like their players to be backing themselves, Ray.
He's fine.
So what if they can get away with today and confirm a top 8 spot? then there's that big sense of relief. That's going to lift the club enormously, and they can refocus on what they have to do over the next 4 weeks. It's a big afternoon for them. Just the fact that they know that they will be there for the big matches, that they can get away with this particular afternoon.
Jobson and Riddell coming together.
That's 4.
We'll know.
5.
Well, let me put it to you this way, both of you. It's the first weekend. Newcastle are in it, and they finish 6 or 7 or 8. You're the coach of 1 or 2. Do you want to play them?
Look, I've been saying for some time, I don't think there's any team in the top 4 actually going all that well. They've been there for some time. No one's really mounted a challenge from behind there. There isn't anyone yet in the final 8, other than probably the Raiders on Friday night, that have put their hand up at this stage of the season and I think are establishing themselves as premiership favourites.
Knights aren't there yet, and the Dragons still have plenty of time in this one.
Bailey played it, Furman gave it, and on along the line it goes to Timmins, and then that pass was too hard for John Cross.
That's 0.
And it's down with McDougall, 30 metres out from his own line. 24-8. With 24 minutes to go in the game. And a Falcon straight off the head of John Cross, no knock on. But the pass was too hard and ill-directed. And it looks like Craig Hall is out there now in jumper number 18. So everybody's now been used. As Kennedy runs off a lovely ball from Badeiras. 30 metres out from the St George Illawarra line. Badeiras goes over to Kurt Gidley and then to McDougall, who seemingly today always beats 1. Blacklock has played at the ball.
St George.
And it's been knocked on by Blacklock, so they're going to put a scrum down. It's 24-8. Newcastle leading the Dragons.
Leagues Club will be the venue for the Dragons Grand Final meal and refreshments. Proceeds from the luncheon will go to the Jubilee Oval.
24-8 as we left you.
$20 per
And
person.
Newcastle with McDougall attacking. And Blacklock knocks on. And he immediately called a knock on. I was wondering why he didn't play an advantage to Newcastle. 14, Sims is about to come back into the game as O'Davis is piled into the turf by Cooper. Rudder getting it on to Craig Hall now.
Tackle 2.
He's had an impressive year.
Hold here. Now.
30 metres out from the line. It's come across to Matt Gidley, then to Kurt Gidley. And tackled and put away by Simmons. And here's Ben Kennedy beating a couple. He's got it just outside the 20-metre line. And he's injured, Kennedy. I think it's a knee. It's a knee or an ankle. There.
Yeah, like, so very awkward with that ankle caught almost underneath the tackler, Reece Simmons. And that could be ankle or knee.
It's time once again for the Pete's Hut 5-minute mayhem. If the Dragons score in the next 5 minutes, all supporters can take advantage of Pete's Hut's special offer.
Looks like he's okay to continue. Whether they'll leave him there is another matter. We'll know. And 3 Dragons involved in the defence on Adam Woolnough as Badeiras tries to line something up with Kurt Gidley's help. The kick is good and it's a try to Tahu. Tamana has scored another.
Just want to check.
And we just have a look at the grounding and the onside here. It was successful in the first half. The grubber kicked through. On that occasion, it was Nathan Blacklock who failed to get the football. This time, young Ben Cray. No dramas with the men behind the kicker. And Cray, ball just popped up at the wrong time. Now, has Tahu been able to get the football and put it down? It looks as though that is the case. Yeah, that's trying.
We seem to be making a few excuses for young Ben Cray, but geez, he's got an ordinary bounce. And the red, white and blue faces are smiling.
Wait, tell us we want to try on that try.
The kids, they get the faces painted. And there has been that element, I believe, about 2003. A lot of younger faces coming to the footy. Try time. Penrith's a perfect example. Youngsters getting to the game. And Newcastle's obviously part of that as well. 28-8 now.
And there's another youngster, Tamana Tahu, and what a strike rate he has got over his short career. That's his 13th try this season, just played 14 matches. I think he's played 90-odd first-grade games and just about averaged a try a game through that period of time, and still plenty more to come.
And as you can see there, that's why you kick the ball, because it is a funny shape. It will do funny things. And if it's your day, as it is for Tamana Tahu and the Newcastle Knights, it will bounce your way. And it's been pretty much the story of the game today. The Knights have been too well organised, too well structured. And the Dragons, well, it's just getting all a little bit too much for them.
Kurt Gidley is the kicker. 9 in from touch. He's got plenty of height on it, and it sails straight between the uprights. So another 2 points on the total. It takes them out to 30. 30-8, Andrew.
One other stat about Tamana Tahu, we may in fact see the club record broken at the moment. The club try-scoring record at Newcastle is Robbie O'Davis at the moment. He sits on 74 tries, and with that try there to Tamana Tahu, he's now 73. So just one more to equal the record of Robbie O.
Riddell with a shortish kick-off. And the ball is safely in the hands of Newcastle on the far side with Jobson.
I think Michael Hagan now with the scoreboard at 30 points to 8 has got to consider whether or not he wants Ben Kennedy out there. Danny Badiris, they are absolutely vital to their semi-final aspirations. We just saw Kennedy go down with a suspected ankle injury. Anything happens to them, and then that's just an addition to the Andrew Johns scenario. I guess at some stage in the next 19 minutes, he's got to be looking to get those players off. It's that time of year you start protecting your best.
Well, no. Able to keep the kettle boiling before getting it on to Badiris, who's wrapped up inside the 30-metre line. Newcastle number 9. What a wonderful player he's turned out to be, as Kurt Gidley puts in a high kick and Nathan Blacklock sails above the pack and comes down with the ball. Now it's Cross. This is Hornby.
Dominant 2.
Roosters and Warriors played a match earlier today, and 26-24 to the Warriors. 26-24 to the New Zealanders.
Come on, Josh.
So I would say that is goodbye minor premiership Roosters, and you'd almost be prepared to take very short odds about Penrith taking the minor premiership. Timmins.
Gee, you talk about betting a lot.
And he's put his foot on the line. Touch judge has got it right. 30 points to 8.
Thomas Hotels are proud to be involved in the sponsorship of the number 1 box set at OKI Jubilee Stadium through the Jubilee Oval Community Appeal. All their
Got exactly right.
I do. You're quite right. I inherited it from a father that couldn't help himself with the gamble, but I got to tell you something. Sports Tab report a 50% increase in football betting, exotic betting on other sports.
You're talking my language.
Rudder now.
That's one. Hit him up, Ben.
The point I'm trying to make is there are a lot of people interested in these things. As we find the end of Danny Badiris for the afternoon, he's got the first shout.
I just won my bet. I said he'd get him off shortly. That's my betting on rugby league.
Kurt Gidley. I was making some comments earlier about him. I'll come back to that as Abraham goes to O'Davis. O'Davis goes to McDougall. McDougall fends off and beats 1. He beats 2. He beats 3. He keeps going. He gets it away. O'Davis is over. Oh, Adam McDougall. Hercules. But is he held up? He is held up. Oh, that's a tragedy, really, because what McDougall did was just outstanding. What McDougall did was outstanding, and then there was all they could see was Robbie O'Davis's rump, And Blacklock has made a magnificent save.
Yeah, that's great to come from behind and then get round in front and underneath. Play continues again with McDougall shrugging off players. And Davis might have known Tahu's getting close with those career tries.
McDougall again there. If at first we don't succeed, we'll try again.
Out of there, Ashton, come on.
Andrew Price in 16 plays it. Abraham, long ball to Rudder. Rudder to Ben Kennedy, coming back on the inside. And Kennedy is held just a few metres out from the line. Newcastle to the northern end. Kurt Gidley back for Woolnough, and he's tackled. So will they put it over the line again on this set? Kennedy, Jinks, and then it's catch, pass back, and it's Tahu. He's in again. He equals the record. Tahu gets his third try of the day.
And some razzle-dazzle to do so. A couple of players inside don't even catch the football. There's the flick from Robbie O'Davis. It's battered on by Matt Gidley. And then look at this move. Tahu comes in, goes away. He's got great speed, great ovation to Mana Tahu. And Ben Creagh again is the unfortunate man who's confronted by that. But just look at this. O'Davis realises there's something on out wide. The little flick, so does Gidley. This man's a match winner in his own right.
We were playing touch football at New South Wales training one day, and Tamana Tahu put this move on me. I nearly threw my back out. I don't know where he went. Poor old young Creagh didn't know either. Shimmy, shimmy, whoosh, and away he goes.
I'm sure he gained great inspiration out of the fact that he beat you.
Well, it's a lot further to get around me than it is to get around young Creagh, let me tell you.
Tahurific.
Don't worry, Luke Bailey put the same move on him as well and got the same result.
Tahurific.
They were lining up after that. Everyone wanted to run at me.
4 from 5 for Daniel Abraham. And Abraham from touch, and that's online. Another lovely kick at goal.
Conversion successful.
And Tahu, 36-8, Newcastle over St George Illawarra. Welcome back as Riddell takes us into one of the final sections of the game.
Dominant one!
Talking about final section of the game, look how much time there is to go, Peter. This could become embarrassing.
Yeah, we've still got just under a quarter of the game to go, and the big lead now could be extended. Michael Hagan would love that his team is in this situation. He kept players on the bench for a long time, both Jobson and Craig Hall. Didn't see any football for the first 50 minutes. Now he does have that flexibility to bring Badiris off. He's got Josh Perry off. Wouldn't be surprised if he brings another player off and let those players pick up the last 25 minutes of play to get the team home.
That's one!
Ben Creagh.
Moving out of there.
He's not very well either. He's had a day that he's never going to forget. And don't get me wrong, he's had a lot of bad luck, and he's been lining a class winger. He's been lining one of the game's best wingers.
Wait.
And now he's getting up injured, the kid over there in the top left-hand corner of your screen.
Yeah, but you watch him improve next year, Ray. Young fellas like this get a taste of first grade, realise how fast it is, realise the skill of their opposition players, physically how strong you have to be. They have an off-season and they get most of their physical development between October and March. He'll come back bigger, faster and stronger. At the moment, he's had a few up in the top grade, just starting to get the better of him now, but he'll come back bigger and better.
Tahu.
That's one.
Andrew was talking earlier about equaling a record. I put it in the back of my mind. I'm not quite sure. I think it was Robbie O'Davis's record that he was talking about. I'll just ask Andrew to repeat it in a moment as Matthew Gidley keeps on running. And Newcastle keep on doing the same. They go down the middle and they pick up runners in support. Rudder is this man. And he will play the ball 20 metres out from the line. And here it is. The line is being threatened again as Kurt Gidley shrugs and then steps and then unloads. And Kennedy lofts a pass, but it's gone forward off Newcastle and safely back to the Dragons and Creagh. He plays the ball and John Cross brings it out.
Yeah, they've actually brought Creagh across to right centre. He was over on the left wing and everyone was coming at him. Now he's over on the right, and all of a sudden here's Ben Kennedy and the troops roaring down his side of the field. Makes a good hit. Kennedy tries to flick it over the top. Blacklock bats it down. And Cray's there again. Reece Simmons has gone over to the left wing. He's going to handle Tahu.
Here's Kite. And Michael Hagan, of course, the Newcastle coach. The man who, I guess, together with a lot of us thought, well, that's the end of our season, when the game's #1 player made an early exit. But the more you watch Newcastle without him, the more you start to think, hang on a moment, they are still some hope. Here is Quinn. Andrew, that record you're talking about.
Yeah, Robbie O'Davis currently holds the club record of tries in the career for the Newcastle club, but you've got to look at the number of games he played. Robbie O'Davis held the record with 74. He's now in his 205th game. Tamana Tahu chasing him down. He's only in his 89th game.
Movement! Hold, now.
A lot of new faces this year, of course, for the Dragons. Gee, their experienced players they've toiled hard, haven't they, as Abraham goes up the middle. There's Sean Timmins. He finds it difficult to train most weeks, but he's putting 100% every weekend. And Luke Bailey's probably starting to... You can see that this origin period has taken the toll on the big man. They've been marvellous for their club.
I can tell you the Origin series took a big toll on Sean Timmins because, as you say, he doesn't normally train with his club. We did a fitness session a week out from Origin 1. He completed the session and he was so happy with himself. He said, that's the first physical workout I've done at training in 3 years. Now, you think about the quality of football he has played, and this fella doesn't train on the paddock from Monday to Friday. And Origin took a big toll on him this year, and he's done well to last this long with his club side.
Dean Young playing it back, and this is young Damien Bow. A couple of metres on his own side of the halfway. Young it is from dummy half, who puts the kick in neatly. Rolling away from the touchline, and O'Davis now is away from his 10. He's over the 20. He's gone 25, 27, almost 30 metres out on the kick return. And this is Quinn in 17, almost through the gap. He'll play the ball 7 metres short of halfway. Friday night we go to Brisbane for Brisbane versus St George, and that will be a night where the spotlight, the blowtorch, will very much be on Brisbane. Now it's Kurt Gidley, then Ben Kennedy, now Adam McDougall. Young Cray is on McDougall. McDougall forced to pass and picks up Blacklock. He beats the tackle of Abraham. Ball goes to Ashton Sims in the middle, and he runs into a very good one-on-one tackle.
You talk about the Dragons and the Broncos on Friday night, and many will assume now with the Dragons out of the running, that might be the end of their season. But the last 3 weeks have had a lot of pressure on them. This could be our last game. This is the one we have to win. They go to Brisbane next week with no pressure on them. It just might see a different brand of football from the Dragons. And the Broncos, they've won 1 of their last 9. They're not playing with any confidence, and they're playing against a team that doesn't care and just throws it around. You might see some of this.
Cooper gets the pass away, and just like the fortunes of St George Illawarra, it goes to ground.
Or maybe not something exactly like that.
Today's official crowd, 10,000.
Cooper it was, the number 4. Off the hands, it looked okay. Reece Simmons only had to catch it, and it was a try in the corner. Nathan Brown's face on camera there. He's had a checkered weekend. I see he won a big race at the Gallops yesterday as a part owner. He would rather have won this one, though, I'm sure.
That's one.
Just back to that Broncos-Dragons game. If I'm Coach Wayne Bennett of the Broncos, I think I want to play a side that's nervous and playing for their future, rather than a team that's got a bit of talent in it, that's got no nerves at all, and it's just turning up to play football. If the Dragons shot it around a little bit and score a couple of tries, the Broncos have been struggling in that area. It could be a good game, have a big bearing on the make-up of the final 8.
Well, there it is on the network. Next Friday night at 8:30, the Dragons versus the Bronx at another of the great rugby league grounds, Suncorp.
Yeah, boys.
It's amazing how at one time in the middle 90s they were declaring grounds like this one we're at today not meeting the criteria. There's a crowd here today that's quite comfortable. Everybody seems to be happy with the criteria.
Don't start me on criteria, right? We've had enough of all that.
So Blacklock Giving on to Cooper, and Cooper will play the ball just outside 30.
Go.
Now for Furman, and here's Kite. He's got a pretty heavy load on him, Parsons and Perry.
Hold here, boys. Now.
Oh, Kite got up, started swinging punches too as Bailey takes it inside the 20.
Don't worry about him, mate.
From Bowder, across for Furman.
On here.
Kite on the inside, and it's probably ironic, but riding him into the ground is Perry. Kite gets up, plays the ball, Furman passes on, out it goes to Head, and Head, he loses the ball. Scrum will go down 10 metres out from the Newcastle line.
It's cool, eh?
Matthew Head.
Hang on. I haven't spoken to him yet.
Bit of an altercation back there with Brent Kite and Josh Perry. It didn't come to anything. I don't quite know what inspired it.
Keep everyone out here, mate.
Maybe a little knee in the face didn't help matters. Kite didn't like it, got up.
When you're ready, Kurt. Out!
Perry was very much happy to be the pacifist.
That's one! Here it is. Up you go.
6 minutes of time remaining, and Ben Kennedy's made 140 metres on 13 hit-ups. He might be arguing with referees, but I tell you what, I think he is revelling in this captaincy role.
Yeah, I think when we have a look at the end of this game, all the Newcastle forwards will have good metre gainage just from the amount of runs that they've made, and that's an indication that the Dragons' defence really hasn't come up and got in their face, put a lot of pressure on them. Countless times Newcastle Knights have picked up 15 metres through a hit-up fairly comfortably.
I've been watching Ben Kennedy ever since I said that Michael Hagan would be best to get him off the field. He's actually taken himself out of the game a little bit. He's done a lot of talking out there in the last 10 minutes rather than playing. I would think of all the runs he's had, there wouldn't be many in the last 10 or 15 minutes. Once the game was beyond doubt, he's virtually taken on a captaincy role. He talks to his troops, marshalling around, niggling at the opposition, but not a lot of physical activity from him. An experienced player just biding his time for the finals.
Parsons. Kurt Gidley. Josh Perry on the inside, and
tackle 3.
wrapped up there by Bauer in 17. Kite also involved, and that skirmish goes on as Rudder goes on. Gets the ball over the line, does he? No, short.
He's still got it.
And somehow has maintained possession.
So Rudder to play it, and it's with Abraham, and then long for O'Davis, and he puts in a kick. Now Simmons has got some work to do. Can he get back? Loses the ball. And referee Clark is, I believe, ordering a line drop out. Rudder just falling short, amazingly able to retain possession. Now what happens here, the referee was concerned about this ball being lost by Reece Simmons, or was in fact it pushed out or punched out by Matt Gidley, and should it have been a 20-metre restart. That's why Clark consulted his touch judge for quite a long time before deciding on this line dropout. Very late in the game, 3 3/4 minutes to go. I don't know that Newcastle's finished yet. Rudder's with the ball. Perry and Kite, they've had a couple of goes now. And here's Perry with the ball now, just outside 20.
Hold here. Now.
To the short side they come on the Newcastle side. It's Andrew Price, 15 from the line, playing it back for Abraham. McDougall's had a fine game today. This has been, I know, against an ordinary opposition when you think back on it, but it's been a touch of the old Adam McDougall. Parsons puts it on the ground. Kurt Gidley's there to pick it up.
That's 4.
He also picks up the attention of the
Roll out of it, just roll
Dragons tacklers. Back now for Abraham. He runs towards the referee, and he plays the ball now 3 metres out from the line. Ben Kennedy, a dummy half. Now Kurt Gidley. Oh, O'Davis running onto the ball, dives over, and that's the try he should have got earlier. Robbie O'Davis gets his title back. Scores under the black dots, the X box marking on the crossbar.
And this is what
So Rob O'Davis, the try scorer.
This is what Phil Gould was talking about earlier when Gidley scored the try himself. Newcastle support players running into holes, putting pressure on the opposition. And then it's just up to Gidley to find the right man. He does so beautifully there. In behind Parsons, it went to O'Davis. Had some work to do. He was able to spin out and acrobatically score what should be the final try in this game.
So I've always maintained with football teams that it's the outside men that tell the halfback what they want. I know you get a freak like Johns who probably points people's around, but if the communication outside in is good, you can make a halfback. And the Newcastle players today have set about making their halfback dangerous by supporting him, by running into holes, by running decoys. And if you've got that outside in communication, it can make your halfback a far better player. And Newcastle Knights have found the answer with Gidley. He needs help and they're giving it to him.
Abraham with 5 from 6 makes it 6 from 7. And that should be, I would imagine, the final scoreboard. 42-8. Is his eye running? A bit of a tear there just coming down from the right eye. The mascara is running, Andrew.
I'm just doing some mathematics on the sideline. With that result coming through from Aussie Stadium, the Warriors winning today, despite Newcastle's win here, I don't think they can finish any higher than 7th. So that means they're going to have sudden death going to week 1 of the final. So it's a good news, bad news day, if you like.
The point I was making earlier, though, it might be a bad news weekend for the team that they're playing because, gee, the way they're playing at the moment, doesn't matter whether they're playing 1 or 2. They'll be looking over their shoulder for the week leading up to it, no doubt about that.
Yeah, this is a good news day for Newcastle. The fact that they know that they're I don't think they care where they finished with the way that the last couple of weeks have gone. Just to know that they'll be turning up.
And we talked earlier very quickly about the combinations that are now starting to evolve. People now taking on newborn confidence.
And I guess if they're safe in the 8 and if they can't finish any higher than 7th, whether or not the coach would consider resting a few players next weekend so that he just puts a full onslaught onto that first weekend of football while the top sides are still battling for minor premiership and top 4 positions. Maybe Newcastle find themselves in a handy position now, knowing their fate today.
Well, their fate today is that they have won and won so easily it's not funny. 42 points to 8. The Newcastle Knights defeating St George Illawarra at OKI Jubilee Stadium. They are in the 8. St George Illawarra can't make it. 42-8. The Knights over the Dragons.
The season officially over for the Dragons for 2003, following this loss at OKI Jubilee Stadium. But for Newcastle, they confirm a top 8 berth with a 42-8 victory over the Dragons. 7 tries to 1 to Mana Tahu scoring a hat-trick. Our man of the match today, and for the second time in 3 weeks, Newcastle halfback Kurt Gidley takes the $1,000 from Kellogg's Nutrigrain. Another very assured performance in the number 7 jersey. Don't forget your chance to win $1,000 in our SMS competition. If you can coincide with Phil Gould's choice as the most valuable, text the player's name on 188 1099. 2 other games played today. We've already pointed out the Warriors over the Roosters 26-24 and the Cowboys 20-point winners over the Tigers at Campbelltown. And with 1 round left, there are still 9 teams who can make up the top 8. A huge weekend next weekend for both the Broncos and the Eels. Early tomorrow morning, 3 a.m. in fact, the end of the first week of the US Open tennis. Our coverage will continue from New York. Both Philippoussis and Hewitt still well in contention. And on Thursday night, live at 9:30 p.m, the footy show, as usual, comes your way. To kick off round 26, we go to Suncorp Stadium. The Broncos up against the Dragons. Brisbane hoping to bring to an end their long losing streak. That's from 8:30. And on Sunday, one of the true local derbies, the Panthers up against the Eels out at Penrith. Our coverage from 4 p.m. But today, plenty of pressure off Newcastle. 34-point winners over the Dragons. Hope you've had a great weekend. Until next time, it is bye for now.
This has been another presentation from Nine's Wide World of Sports. Sunday Football, brought to you by the all-new Holden One-Tonner, Crazy Johns, Repco and Telstra.